no one up there, snowshoed all the way in, and it was just beautiful. The overnight temperature, so I was in there, I was in a, really in a light t-shirt for most of the hike in. But the overnight temperature was 16 degrees. So it may have been, it felt like it was 45 or something there, but that temperature is going to drop quickly. So even if you have good weather, you got to be careful about conditions like that. One thing that happens with scouts is they are energetic and they get moving, and what happens?
Sweat.
They get sweaty. Okay, so you're going to pay attention, pay close attention to that. I can remember being on one of our snow activities where I thought this young man had the least. He had a nice snowsuit on and he was all ready to go, and he says, my snowsuit leaks, it won't keep me dry. And I'm thinking, how in the world are you getting that wet? And he was just sweating that much. So you got to keep yourself, be aware of that as you're hiking in and that kind of thing. And you got to keep the moisture off your body, particularly when you're climbing into bed. So we've got some tips for you on that. Buddy system, patrol method. Okay, what are we talking about? What's important, scouts, with patrol, with the buddy system and patrol method when winter camping? What are some things you as a senior scout may want to be sure of with your patrols? Anyone? Well, first of all, you got to keep track of them, right? Can't lose them. There's a lot of paperwork your scoutmaster has to do, right? So don't lose any of them. That's real important. What's also real important is that you check on them, right? You make sure you're checking on those scouts. Your patrol leaders are checking, making sure that they're following along and that they're keeping warm, and if they have any issues, if you deal with them early, your adult leaders are going to have a lot better situation to handle than if you wait till a kid has a real problem. So patrol leaders have got to be looking out for the patrol members, making sure they know where guys are at, making sure that they're taking care of themselves, making sure that they're drinking plenty of water, that they're keeping warm. Units have got to stay together. Camp is different. When we go up to summer camp, we have a lot of freedom. We can move around, do a lot of different things, right? Adult leaders can kind of kick back a little bit. When you're on that trail going in, we don't want anybody not knowing where their guys are at. So it is very important that they stay together. We've never had any situation where we've gotten anybody lost up there, and a lot of that is just very important that you stay together, that you know where people are at. Yes, sir.
Does everybody know that most of the time it's dark on that Friday night?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're hiking in the dark, and if you're coming up Friday night.
There is going to be a full moon.
Oh, it'll be a full moon.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully we have some
and that really helps.
clear skies. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's one of the prettiest ways to come in at night.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
really is.
Yep.
Yeah. But the last thing you want to be doing is trying to retrieve a scout that's on the trail. You know, maybe made a bad decision and turned around and went back out. So you have got to stay together. Keeping warm means keeping dry inside and out, obviously. Emergency action plans. Think through the types of situations that you might encounter as a unit. Units are responsible and accountable to deal with their own issues when they're up there. Okay, this is not we don't have resources like we have normally with camp. Units have to be able to operate independently. Leave no trace is an important aspect of scouting. So last year we had over 600 people in camp. I thought it was remarkably well. The leave no trace principles were really done well. We didn't have lots of trash and food waste and things like that were left out. It shows come spring if we do. And the ranger Doug up there was very appreciative of all the efforts that we make to make sure that we're not leaving our trash behind. Make sure you're getting your tour permit from the scout office, and use your Guide to Safe Scouting to help make sure that you're following along with what the BSA requirements are. Just that's kind of a bad picture.
Not sure if we can kill some lights here.
This is a picture of camp, and you can kind of see that that's a pretty nice day. It's sunny and warm, and may have been a little brisk at night, but look, we've got the ground cropping out here. We've got tents that are really close to the ground. Okay, so that was one year, and it was really quite nice up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
That looks
this
very familiar.
is a little different situation, right? And so this is a year, I think it was 2006, and we got a lot of snow, and I'll show you. So you have to be ready for all conditions. Probably the worst of conditions is when you get a lot of moisture. So if you get rain on the snow, that's probably the least. Those are the most difficult situations to deal with. This snow, the big corn snow, when you got good temperature, it brushes off you, not too much of a problem, and it actually makes for a kind of a neat trip. But you need to be thinking that through with regard to your units. This is a 2-season or probably a 3-season tent here. You've got the fly off, and so it probably has a fly that goes on the top of that, and so it's a good. There's a lot of troops come up with 3-season tents and do just fine with them. Make sure they have a good fly. Okay, make sure that the external fly is there, and make sure that they're staking them down and so forth, because as conditions change, if you end up with some snow load on a 3-season tent, they're not intended for a heavy snow load. But you can get through Klondike and have some snow there with a 3-season tent. But they've got to be set up right.
Hey, that looks like a snow load.
Yeah.
That's a good snow load.
That's right. That's a good snow load right there. Now those guys were just fine in those tents. They bunkered in that night. It was an earlier picture that I just showed you of that, and then that's what came down that night. And the guys that had their tent set up correctly did just fine. And actually, when you get a little bit of snow around you like that, it provides some warmth. That same trip, that was one of our neighbors' tents.
Yep.
Okay? And the difference between the two is this tent wasn't set up right. And it really wasn't. And then if you have a lighter weight tent, you're going to have to be knocking the snow off the top. But you need to be thinking about your gear and making sure that you've got things dialed in. Any questions about that at this point? Any questions about kind of the? I do want to. If we can bring the lights back up. I do want to go over a few things in particular on the preparing for your senior patrol leaders. On page 11, there's a unit preparation checklist. And it kind of starts in November. Okay, so we're in January, that's okay. But we've kind of laid out as best we can what the steps are in planning. The better your patrols work together, the more success you're going to have as a troop. So you all want to be working on the patrol method. But it's time to get your sled out, tune it up. Be getting ready for that. Promote your event. Maybe you want to set up a time to practice the skills that you're going to be using. You know you're going to be tying some knots. You know you're going to be doing some fire building. You know you're going to be doing a sled race. Maybe work with your unit over the next month to make sure that they're ready for those events. We talked about having some pictures ready to go. You need to get your troop registered for Klondike. The registration, we want registrations in by February 4th, Friday, February 4th. We've put a financial incentive there. The price goes up, I think, $10 or something a head. $8 a head after. But just like you're doing your planning, so are we. So we need to know numbers as soon as we can. Joseph can take registrations after that point, but we really need to encourage units to get registered on time. If you need to fluctuate numbers a little bit after the fact, we can work with you on that. But if you're coming and you know the general numbers, get those guys registered. Plan your troop meetings around snow camping. Take a practice trip, day or overnight. I talked about that. Get your guys out, comfortable with their gear. Get your tour permit, review guided safe scouting. Conduct an equipment and clothing shakedown. We're going to run through that drill with you right here with a couple of scouts where they're going to do the shakedown. Have your guys pack their packs. Bring them to their meeting packed, ready to go. It's a great way to help them to be prepared. And you also may want to require them to come in the clothing that they're going to come in. You know, making sure everything fits and you got everything. It's amazing what you can do in terms of swapping things back and forth too. Push and close down a generation. We're normally not wearing out the snow gear. We're just shuffling it around. And then do your final preparation. And then you know, we really encourage you after the event, get back together, next troop meeting after the Klondike, and do a start, stop, and continue exercise. So you can learn from how the event went, celebrate the successes, and figure out what didn't work so well, and make those adjustments. So you've got that as far as a planning guide to kind of help walk you through that, okay? With that, we're going to go on to some two demonstrations. And are you guys kind of doing it together?
No, we're planning separate.
We're planning separate, okay. So what we want to do is have Joe Lazarus from Troop 223 is going to come up. He is going to go over kind of a drill of how to pack your pack and have things kind of ready to go. You want the table up here?
Sure.
I'll shut this off. So this is Joe Lazarus with Troop 223. He's a veteran of
Yes.
Klondike. How many times?
We'll
Four?
take care of that.
Three.
Three Klondikes. He's also been to Philmont. He's an all-star hiker. And he's done a great job in helping prepare his troop. So he's going to do a little presentation for us here.
Hey everyone, how are you doing this morning? Okay, I've always kept in mind 3 general rules for being comfortable that I'd always recommend for all scouts to have. Number 1 is stay dry. Number 2 is stay warm. Number 3 is stay hydrated. I'm going to go down the list and go with each one. Number 1, staying dry. All your scouts, fully decked out in gear, should look about just like this. Everything on me right now is waterproof. The only thing that's not is, say some snow could get thrown in my face. Only thing that could do that is a snowball fight. So otherwise, I'm all good. Shoot. Had some gloves in my pockets, but you get the idea. Basically, in any way, even if I just directly fell down in the snow, I'd stay warm. The only thing I'd have to worry about is sweating in this, which goes to point number 2. For staying warm, one thing I highly recommend is right now, if I was out in the snow, if it was warm outside, like that first picture you saw,